Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the United Stand. Lots to talk about this Sunday night. Is Lukaku better than Ronaldo? We'll start off with that. We won't really. We will talk about that. But realistically, there's so much to get into. Champions League game on Tuesday. Loads going on tomorrow. I've got Paul Ince live on the show at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, by the way. He wants to do it live, so that's great. But Romano. So where does a preview come in? Well, it's only the young boys. So we can put that into the show today and mould it around. Do we need to rotate for this game? Because I think not. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about Donny. I promised we'd talk about that. I want to talk about whether Martial's got a future. I want to talk about the brilliance of Varane that got a bit underrated. I want to talk about title credentials. And at the very end, we're going to have a bit of a laugh and we're going to come up with our five-a-side team from Manchester United, each one of us, and you can vote for the winner on that. But I'm joined by Adam. How you doing?
Good, mate.
Levin in Ronaldo's pad.
Yeah. I'm staying over. He was incredibly happy, and he said I could stay an extra week, so I'm here for a couple more days.
It's better than the other background you had, to be honest. And and we've got a new guest on the show, Haber. You might know him as, but we're going to call him Ryan. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Good. Great to have you on. And you win the background, to be fair. I think we put Adam in second place, me in third, and no one's having that's real for Levin. So he's
I could go play the piano right now. I could go play the piano.
Go and play us a tune then. Viva Ronaldo.
Go on, Sanchez.
At the end of the show, Sanchez, at the end of the show, I'll go play something. Just remind me.
We'll look forward to that. Well, let's get on with the show. So we're going to start off talking a bit of context. We're playing Tuesday night. It's a 5:45 kickoff in the UK. You might not realise that. Ollie's doing his presser tomorrow. Like I said, we international break was terrible. We're now going to get lots of games close together. Now, the question I want to pose, and I'll ask you, Ryan, first of all, as it's your first time, were a lot of people talking about this game saying, play Bay, play Lindelof, play Delo, play Charlie McNeil, play Heaton, and it is a Champions League game, and they don't let anybody in. It's not like Arsenal are in it. They're not a terrible team. Bit of context to young boys. They are currently about fourth in their league, but they've got a game in hand. But they smashed Zurich at the weekend 4-0, who are top of the league. Now, this is quite interesting. The question's going to be, Ryan, I'm just a bit long-winded here. Would you rotate? Would you drop Ronaldo, rest, rotate, etc.? But we did play them 3 years ago. Mourinho was sacked 2 months later, but we played them in Switzerland and we beat them 3-0. The team that day, just for a little bit of nostalgia, De Gea, Delo, Smalling, Lindelof, Shaw, Fred, Matic, Pogba, Martial, Lukaku, Rashford. So it's quite a strong team. We beat them 3-0, and we only beat them with a late Fellaini goal in the other game at Old Trafford, 1-0. So they're not farmers. They're not Azerbaijan. They're not Andorra. They're not San Marino. They're probably Charlton Athletic, I would say. Maybe I'm being a disservice. I think they're sort of it might be a Norwich. Norwich might give them a game, but I think they're sort of top half championship side. Do you rest players, rotate? Because a lot of people think we should.
Yes, I think I really want to see Donny start. I think we all do. I think it's unfair that he's had 10 minutes so far this season. I want to see him on the pitch starting. I'd love to see him start in that pivot because, he's said himself that he thinks he can play there, and I want to see him prove it. And I think that in a game where it's an important game, it's a Champions League game, but I don't think we're going to struggle a whole lot against young boys, regardless of what team we field. I think it's a game where we can take risks. So Donny, I'd love to see start. I'd love to see Martial start as well. Maybe even Lingard, give the likes of Sancho a rest, give maybe Bruno a rest as well. I think we can definitely start a weaker team compared to what we have, against Newcastle. But I don't think we should rest everyone. I want to see Maguire and Varane starting still. I want to see them both together. I think it will build their partnership well. I want to see Luke Shaw get some minutes because I think he had a decent game yesterday, but I think he could definitely do with a bit more sort of match sharpness, get a few more minutes under his belt. And maybe Dalot. I'd love to see Dalot get some minutes as well. But I wouldn't change the whole team. Definitely not.
Philip Burtonwood says there, Adam, play your strongest team, wrap the group up, then rest the squad. Ryan obviously saying he'd like to see Donny play. What do you think Ollie will do, as well as what would you do? Because I'm trying to... who else is in our group? I forgot.
Villarreal and Atalanta.
Yeah.
Wow, so this is the easiest game. But if you mess it up in the away leg, it might put a bit of pressure on. And also, chemistry is important. Get people working together.
That's it. Yeah, exactly that, mate. May I take you back to a certain game in Istanbul? Let's not forget what happens in the Champions League with United. You go into a stadium that's going to be packed, that again has had fans away for a good number of months, like everywhere else in the world. They'll be chomping at the bit. The atmosphere will be absolutely rocking. And you know what? Am I right in thinking it's an artificial pitch in this stadium? I think it was last time. So this, if it is, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% on that. Hopefully someone can let me know.
If it's the team that had that lad, was it Mbamba or something, and Boo Boo or something like that?
It was when we played him. It was when we played him 3 years ago.
Yeah. You're right.
So unless things have changed drastically, let's add that to the equation as well. But for me, Tuesday night, 4-hour flight back to Manchester Wednesday, playing on Sunday. I'm not making wholesale changes. I'm not. I agree with Ryan on the defence. I think the defence is the most key part about this. I think it'll keep stability there. I think that's ideal. We definitely need to build there because I've seen flaws in it against Newcastle, which I want ironed out, and that's going to come with game time. I do worry that Ollie's going to start doing the stupid goalkeeper changing routine again for the Champions League, which I don't want to see. I really don't. I'd rather stick with one. Put your name on one of them and go with that. I do think it's good for the defence as well, to be honest. Midfield, I think that's where we may see a bit of chopping and changing. I think if there's a game to bring Donny in, it's probably this one. I do agree on that. But I'm one for maybe 1 to 3 sort of changes. I think Sancho needs to play again on the right-hand side this time. I bring Greenwood off. I put Martial on the left. I don't know if Cavani's going to be fit or not, if he's going to be risked. I don't know what the situation is with him. I've not looked into that too much. You could actually say you could bring Greenwood into the middle and put Sancho on the right with Martial on the left. And you could even bring Bruno out, put Donny in there. You know what I mean? You could play Pogba in the number 10 role. There's a few things you could do, freshening it up, giving game time to certain players. Lingard in the 10. There you go. You know what I mean? That I don't think would upset too much of the rhythm. And I do think that would freshen up and give some of our sort of fringe players, sub players who we need to come on in games like Lingard did yesterday and Martial yesterday, a bit more game time under the belts, and then a lot more ready when we may need them against the West Ham or a league game coming up. So I think we'll still win with that sort of lineup as well.
It is interesting, Levin, because I'm reading the chat whilst I'm listening to Adam and Ryan there, and it is split. People are saying you've got to make changes because you need to give people game time and keep them fresh. That's what this season's all about. And there's other people saying, hold on a minute, we've only had one game back. That team we're going to talk about in a bit lacked a bit of chemistry yesterday. What a perfect game to go and beat a team 4 or 5-0 and get more chemistry. But it is about whether Ollie's going to rotate. What are your thoughts on it, Levin? And what sort of changes do you think he might make?
I think ultimately Tuesday will be very telling on what he sort of prioritizes because I think as much as there is a bit of division on what he should do, it's almost justified because on one hand, you can probably look at it and go, fitness might be an issue for certain players. Someone like a Matic, right? Is always the example people go to. You might decide you want to rest people. You might decide certain people need more minutes, like a Martial, etc. But then at the same time, I've watched the game back 3 times now, and as much as you sit there, you enjoy the win. Yesterday was Ronaldo Day. There's plenty of things I think needed to improve from almost every player, and a lot of those things you expect will come with chemistry and playing with each other more. And so I want to see them play with each other more. So I personally would try and not make as many changes. Just because I do think certain players do need to sort of, figure out each other's tendencies and improve their communication, all these things. But I understand that you probably might have to bring on certain people. And there are people who it just seems like Ollie just really wants to play, like a Lingard, for example. But yeah, I wouldn't be making too many changes if it was my choice. If I was going to make any changes, I'd maybe, give Matic a rest just because I'd want Matic back for the weekend. I'd switch Sancho onto the right, like Adam said as well, because I do want to see him on the right. But I don't know, I wouldn't be making any changes. I might give Greenwood a rest. I don't want to overplay him. Want to keep him, fresh and hungry. So maybe bring on a Martial as well. But no, I wouldn't make too many changes, Mark.
No, it is interesting. We're going to talk about Donny's best position because I think a lot of people wanted to talk about that from yesterday, him not playing. I do want to touch on what Adam said in his match reaction as well about, if you take Bruno and Ronaldo out of that, do we win the game? Because that sort of fits in with what Ollie said about let the fans dream, we'll keep our feet on the ground. And how good was that performance against the poor Newcastle side? But I would just say, and yeah, Sahiz, you're right, they did beat top of the table Zurich 4-0 yesterday. As I said, I'd put Zurich as a, maybe top championship side, something like that. I certainly don't think they are Rochdale or something like that. I wouldn't make massive changes. I think Adam's right. I think we might see Henderson start. I don't want to see that happening. I don't want to unsettle De Gea, who's playing brilliantly at the moment. I wouldn't change Wan-Bissaka and Varane because I think they need to work together and form a chemistry. You can't change Shaw because unless you're going to play Delo because Telles is injured. Maybe I'd give Maguire a rest, but I don't. He's the captain, so I can't see. I wouldn't make any changes in the back five. I'd bring Donny into that midfield, definitely. But what are you going to do? Not play Pogba? I think he'll probably play Fred where Matic is because Matic can't play 2 games in 3 days. I'd play Ronaldo. I'd play Bruno. I'd play Sancho because he's got Champions League experience and it's another good game for him to play in. And then it's like, well, do you just not play Greenwood and maybe give Lingard a run out? So I actually wouldn't make hardly any changes at all in that game. I really wouldn't. But I would like to see Donny given a game. Ryan, what's your sort of feelings on Donny van der Beek? No starts, international break, agents saying we want, we were looking at going to Everton. Does the interview with Ferdinand, comes on for 10 minutes yesterday for Bruno, which is the deadest substitution you could ever get. If you're going to get brought on for Bruno, of course you're going to love it. It's 75,000 fans at Old Trafford, but it doesn't matter how well you play. It doesn't matter how well you do. It's not, you can't win that spot, can you? So what's your sorts of thoughts on Donny's future and, how he could get into that team realistically?
I honestly thought, having watched the preseason games and him and Matic together, I thought we would see that at the start because I thought we were against, Southampton and Wolves. I think that Wolves were a team I feel like we should have experimented with a little bit before the game. After the game, I realized, they were a good attacking threat. But before the game, I thought, we could experiment here. We could play Matic and Donny together here and see how that works out. I thought he'd have more game time by now, given his preseason. He just can't get it. I don't know. I don't understand it. Whether he's brought in for the long term or not, you don't buy someone for the long term and play them as little as he's been played. Because when eventually his time comes, he won't be ready for it because he's not had that experience. I don't know what Ollie's plans are for him. He said that he's got a good relationship with Ollie, as I think every player does at the club. But I feel for him, and I feel if I was him, I'd be outraged with the amount of game time I've had because it's clear that he's putting the work in to get the game time, to get the minutes. It's clear that he's bulked up a bit. It's clear that he's been working hard, and I feel for him, and I hope that a game like Young Boys is a game where he gets a start and he gets some minutes because he deserves it. And I'd hope that in that time, he proves that he can play and he proves to Ollie that he deserves more minutes in the Premier League. But I just don't see where Ollie plays him because Ollie clearly just doesn't want to.
Do you think when you say you want to see him play more minutes, obviously I get the Young Boys game. That's a game I'd like to see him get plenty of minutes in as well. But long term, like his typical role in the squad, are you saying you want him to eventually be a star or just be used as like a, like one of the first people you bring on when you want to change a game? Like what
I think I want to see him. I want to see the Matic Donny pivot for a couple of starts for sure. I understand that, if he's been brought in as a number 10, no one's going to replace Bruno, are they? He's one of the best number 10s in the world. But if he's willing to try and adapt to a new role and to become a pivot player, if we were to go out next summer and buy a Declan Rice, for example, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see, him get some minutes in the pivot. Maybe if we're resting Pogba or putting Pogba on the left wing to bring out, the creative Pogba we see when he doesn't have defensive responsibilities that we saw against Leeds, for example. I want to see him fight for his place in that team and prove that he's worth in that team. If he's as good as a lot of people think he is, myself included, I think he will be able to get a starting position in that team in the next few years. But, if he's given no opportunity to prove it, how is he going to get into that starting 11? I don't know.
This is the problem I see with Donny. So I don't want him to come into this young boys game and play in the Bruno role.
Yeah,
because I know it's pointless in being there because he's not going to start. I want him to be in the 8, 6. That's where he needs to be part of the double pivot. And if he doesn't get a chance, say halfway through this season, United will go out in the summer and buy someone, and then Donny's finished. He's dead. He's dead in the water. The only hope he's got is if Pogba leaves on a free transfer. That's all he's got. That's what he's clinging to. Because if United go out and buy a proper CDM, I can see Ole sticking to his guns. He's not going to drop McTominay over Donny van der Beek. I just feel that. I know he's not going to do it. And then you've got the Fred scenario, who Ole's trying to turn into this world-class player. It's just not going to happen. And Donny's not going to get into that team because we all agree he's got no chance of getting into the front 4 positions. There's 2 spots open for him. If Pogba signs a deal, Donny's finished. Done. Finished. There's no chance he's going to play for Man United, not in any significant role or in any big game. I want to see him start against young boys as part of double pivot. That's where he needs to take his chance. He said it himself through his agent that he has to prove to Ollie that he's good enough to play there. And unfortunately for him, he has to play an absolute blinder because Ollie's just not going to pay any attention to him when Fred and McTominay are fit, because you know that they're going to be the starters against West Ham next week, because he's going to look at West Ham and see what their strengths are and put Fred and McTominay in against it. You can see how his brain's working. Donny van der Beek has to play in the 6 tomorrow, Tuesday night. I think that's his only position he can fight for. Otherwise, he's, like we said, with a substitution for Bruno, it's a dead substitution. It's a dead start as well if you put him in at number 10. It's just he's not going to get in. He's not going to get any significant game time in the Premier League, which is what we all thought we were buying him for.
Yeah, I think, I agree with that. I was going to say exactly the same thing. I think if he starts in this game in Bruno's role, you can't refuse it. But there's nothing. No. It wouldn't matter if he scores a hat-trick. He's going to start against West Ham or Liverpool or any other game. And I think that's the whole point of the interview, isn't it? That's what he's saying. He's saying I can play in a 6 and an 8. He said in this team, my best position is a 6 or an 8. It ain't stupid. He knows what I was saying this morning. It's like I probably am a 10. I probably can play where Sancho plays, but if I go and play there, I ain't going to play. I think I'm better than Fred. That's me talking, by the way. That's not Donny. But Donny thinks he's better than Fred. McTominay thinks he's better than Fred. Everyone thinks they're better than Fred. But I think Donny's looking at it and going, I'm probably not a 6, but I'm better than Fred and I'm better than McTominay, and that's what he wants to do. But Levin, we spoke about this on Friday night, though, and it's like we don't really think he is a 6. And you're going to have to drop Pogba then. I can't see him starting on Tuesday. I really can't.
Well, I'll say this because I know people will jump on you just because you saying we don't think he's a 6. I'll say this again. I feel like I've said this a million times, by the way, so I get frustrated every time I have to talk about this. A 6, the number 6, right? It's a position, but you have different roles within that position, right? Jorginho is a different type of 6 than Fabinho or Casemiro is, right? There's different types of 6s. Donny can play as a 6. But it's a specific role as a number 6, right? And yeah, I think he can definitely play that role for us. I think that's his best position. Ollie said that's where he sees him. I think if you are going to give Pogba a rest or whatever, or you're going to sub off Pogba, that's where Donny would probably come in best, more likely. Now, I get there's a lot of people who say, well, with how bad Fred is, surely he can't be any worse than Fred, so give him a chance in Fred's position and role. And to that, I say, fair enough. I can't really, we can't judge that until we see him in that position. Maybe he gets used in that position. He's brilliant. That's not the kind of player he is. He's not that sort of holding midfielder, deep line playmaker in that sense. He's never really been that, in the top level of professional football. So, I can't sit here and act like I can analyze how good he'd be in that position. But I don't have a problem with Donny not starting. I don't think he was ever brought in to be a starter. When you came into the team, I knew about him. Yeah. Let's not start. Look, when he came into the team, I saw him as somebody who was going to, give Bruno and Pogba competition and allow those guys to not have to play week in, week out without the level completely dropping for us. And the problem is there were chances where he should have been given football and he didn't. That's where, for me, that's when I started to go, hold on a minute, okay, why is Ollie not using him? Like, there's games where you would have thought, okay, bring him in and he can do something, and he didn't get an opportunity. But I'm not like sitting there fighting for him to start. Like, unless he becomes the type of number 6 that we need instead of Fred, I'm not saying they're going he should start, because I don't think he should start over Pogba or Bruno. And that's those are the positions that he plays essentially in our squad. And like you guys have alluded to, not going to get in over those guys. That's just how it is.
It's the problem, innit? That's just it, Levin, mate. It's like we've done it with a few positions and a few players, and we'll probably touch on it later in a couple of other positions in our team. We're trying to make players instead of getting the players. These players don't do the roles that we need them for. They just don't do them, and we're trying to make them do it. And we're probably as much to blame as Fred being crap as he is, because he's the one who's being picked. He's the one who's being told by the manager that he's good enough to play this role when he's clearly not. He's not going to say no to starting a game for United. So it's all his fault as much as it is Fred's. And Donny van der Beek, we know what he can do. I know he isn't that destroying holding midfielder. Can he do Fred's role better than Fred? Yeah, I think he can, because he can pass the ball. Fred can't. And you know what I mean? He's probably stronger than Fred. How Ollie or anyone's making an excuse for saying that Donny van der Beek isn't physically ready for the Premier League, you only have to look at Fred and go, I've just seen this guy doing Phil Joneses across the floor in 2 away games against Southampton and Wolves. He's not strong enough, he's not quick enough, and he cannot pass. What are you doing in my football team? That I just don't understand it. And that is the most mind-boggling thing about it. And that probably is the only hope that Donny's got, because he isn't as bad as Fred. Well, we don't know yet.
Ollie probably thinks, though, I've given him 10 minutes now. I told him I'd play him. I don't have to pick him till October.
I hope not, mate. I hope not. That's really bad if it is.
What I'd say to that, Adam, though, is as much as to some degree, like, I get where you're coming from. Because if you're looking at Fred from the past 2 games, I think all those things you just said is true, right? If that is just who Fred is. But like Ollie and the coaching staff won't see it like that. They will see it as Fred is just having a bad run of form. Oh, Goldbridge is gone. Now that Goldbridge is gone, the channel is mine. So, guys, welcome to the United Sun. My name is Levin2K. Goldbridge will never return. On
that, mate. On that exact note there, if our coaching staff are saying he's having a bad run of form, all you have to look at is the games that he's played in constantly towards the back end of last season, constantly giving the ball away, conceding goals on the edge of his box. He'd done it pretty much in both the away games already this season. There was only Leeds who really played to his strengths. Fred today would have been a nightmare, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Fred would have been a nightmare against that today, because it would have been a power pace sort of counter-attack. Fred wouldn't have been able to handle. It was exactly the same game as Wolves, wasn't it? Sit deep, Traore, Saint-Maximin on the break, Almiron on the break, pace, and try and get something off United, which is pretty much how it worked for a good spot.
Well, Adam, I wanted to ask you that. We'll bring this in here because, it's developing well. I listened to your match reaction yesterday, and I said to a lot of people, watch Adam's match reaction, because I thought it was and that's what it should always be. You should get different opinions. And you were quite, not damning, but realistic about, everyone's very, very happy and buzzing, but you were like, what? I don't think it was like anti. I think it was more about, there's a lot of work still to be done. And actually, one thing I said, you can develop the point. I said, did Ronaldo get the chance to get the hat-trick? He got 2 chances. I would expect him to be getting 4 against opposition like that. And we're still not creating enough chances. And people will go, oh, shut up. He scored 2. And I'm like, yeah, he did score 2. But he could have had a hat-trick on his second debut, but he couldn't have done, because we didn't actually create a shitload of chances. There's still work to do. And I think that's what Ollie was saying after the match. Yeah,
do you know what, mate? I mean, I just want to make it clear, I wasn't coming across negative, as a lot of people said. It was a case of I was struggling to dissect yesterday's game, because I didn't want to get carried away with the sugar-coated Ronaldo effect, which a lot of people did. And fair enough, It was a momentous day. The atmosphere was brilliant. Everyone was right into it. And Ronaldo was brilliant for what he did. I explained how I thought he played and how he sort of looked after himself in the game. And you can see why he's still going at the highest level. And then I'm trying to think, I'm looking at it and going, oh my God, after an hour, we were being out tactics by Steve Bruce. And you know what? If De Gea didn't make that save from pathetic defending from us, it would have been 2-1. And I was like, what chances did we create in that first half? None. If we didn't have Ronaldo and his brilliance of reacting and being ready, like it was well documented and well put across by a lot of pundits for that goal from Greenwood, then nothing would have happened in that first half. The pressure would have been mounted. And believe me, there was 75,000 people in that stadium and it was getting a little bit tetchy. Yeah, Ronaldo scored, it lifted. But don't let...
They said that on the radio. I wanted to ask that. I wasn't obviously at the game. They said on the radio at one point that the crowd was getting a bit restless.
Yeah,
I was like,
was.
Oh, I don't know.
It was. And you cannot forget that Ronaldo, at the end of the day, was brilliant. His 2 chances he took, fantastic. And it kind of sort of did go the easy street towards the end there through a bit of brilliance from Bruno as well. But you tell me, what saves was the goalkeeper making for Newcastle? What clear-cut chances did we have?
So it's a shame he wasn't making a few more because he was bloody shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, mate, he was diabolical.
He almost gifted us too, didn't he? Really, you know.
He was diabolical. But no, in terms of that, I mean, it wasn't a bad day at the office by any stretch of the imagination. But I looked at it again and went, low block, 65% of the possession. What really did we carve open? We weren't getting down the wings. I had a slight issue with Sancho being on the left. On the left. I just don't think it was working. I don't think Aaron Wan-Bissaka works when against a low block. I don't think he helped Greenwood at all going forward. And in games like that, we have these moments where we switch off completely. And we did twice.
I want to cut in here and go around the chat here. Ryan, you can have this first, and then we'll come back to what Adam was saying. Wan-Bissaka, I do the watch-alongs. Watch-alongs are a different place to a match day, trust me. You see all the agendas. And Wan-Bissaka was somebody that... I'm a massive fan of Wan-Bissaka, and I thought he put a brilliant cross in at the start of the second half. That I was a little bit disappointed that Ronaldo hadn't read it because it was a tap-in, actually. Mm-hmm. But I'm quite happy with Wan-Bissaka. I think he's the right back who's had to play next to Lindelof for a year, and I think he'll get better. But, you know, I've got to accept it. You know, Adam's mentioned it there. Some people just think they're not in for him. What's your thoughts on Wan-Bissaka?
I think Wan-Bissaka is an interesting one when you watch him dribble because his technique is a little bit interesting. When you look at someone like Greenwood and the way he holds the ball at his feet, then you look at Wan-Bissaka, his legs are going different ways sometimes. And I think that influences people's opinions on him just because he's not a beautiful footballer going forward. I think people think he's not a good footballer, but they often forget against Wolves, he was the reason we won that game 1-0. If you remember his goal line block, if that had gone in, that would have been a totally different game, I feel like. And obviously, you know, it would have ended 1-1 had we'd have scored and that'd have been it. So that, you know, I think his importance defensively is massively. Also against Newcastle, there was one slide challenge he made that stopped them going through on goal as well. So I think quality defensive-wise is great, but I think he's been improving a lot going forward as well. You know, he's not Leo Messi going through players, but I think his crossing has improved from when we first bought him. I think his dribbling's improved. I also think, though, he doesn't help Greenwood as much, but I think Greenwood's not an out-and-out right winger. And I think with Sancho on the right and then building some chemistry on that right, I think they'll both complement each other quite well because I think there's been often times where he's made the overlap, Greenwood's not seen it or not read it, or Greenwood's made the run and Wan-Bissaka wasn't expecting it. And I think that those little things will get ironed out with time if we've got Sancho starting on the right wing every game. So I agree with you. I'm a fan of Wan-Bissaka as well. I think he's improving. I think that, you know, in the next couple of years, I think we'll really see why he was worth what we paid for him.
Yeah, he's a couple of years behind Luke Shaw. Right, I'm going to come back to Adam V11 here because this will lead back to Adam. It's like Star Wars to Empire Strikes Back. This is going to be a really good first to second film. So, Levin, you're going to answer this question, and then Adam's going to have his theory on Sancho. What we think of spending 73 million on Sancho, then Greenwood's benching him. And I think what this is saying, Levin, is that Sancho was bought to be right wing, and now Greenwood's benching him. Is that how you read it? what are your thoughts on this Sancho situation? Because I know Adam's going to come at this that he's not happy with him on the left. What are your thoughts around the Sancho situation at the moment?
No, I don't see Sancho. So when I look at Sancho last game, I thought he was all right. I think there were many moments where there were things that he was doing well, and I don't think he necessarily got his credit for. But at the same time, there were instances where I did feel like he was being a bit too safe. And in some instances, there'll be some people who watch and go, well, no, I'm happy with that. At least he was recycling possession and whatnot. But, when I watch it back, I've watched it back a couple of times now. There were times when I thought if he was a bit more aggressive, if he didn't take as long on the ball, we would have created a couple more chances for Ronaldo, like we're sort of talking about. So I'm not unhappy with Sancho. I understand with Sancho, it will take a bit more time for him to get a bit more comfortable and to recognize these situations. Because a lot of the time it's different, right? The Prem is different to the Bundesliga, right? And he will have to learn some of these things on the way. When it comes to Greenwood, I'm not too worried about that, just because, ultimately I do think that Sancho will end up on the right-hand side. The problem is it's a problem, but it's not really a problem. It's just Greenwood's been so brilliant that he's not going to get dropped, and that's fine. Like, that's always how I envisaged it. Before we got Ronaldo and Cavani, Mark, I think you'll definitely remember this, when it was just our attack was Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood, and we thought we were going to get Sancho, it was always like, next man up. Whichever one does bad, you're out, and it's just the other three. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I remember people would say that, and that's what they thought it was going to be like, and I was fine with that. And so if it's a case of, because Greenwood's just been lights out, he's going to be the one to play on the right, I'm not going to be upset with that. But I would like to see Sancho end up there, because I think he has plenty to offer. I think when you're looking at, going on what Haber said, like when you're looking at some of the things that happen on the right-hand side, what you referenced, Mark, that chance in the second half, if he had been doing more of that, perfect, right? Because there he took on his defender, played it to Pogba played it back. It was very aggressive, it was direct, it was what you want. There were times in the first half where he'd have one-on-ones, he wouldn't even take anybody on, and you're like, at least try in that sense, and he didn't. But no, I'm not worried about Wan-Bissaka, I'm not worried about Sancho, I'm not worried about these guys at all.
I'm just going to give Adam a bit of a Sunday night treat here, because Ricky's on a bit of a sabbatical at the moment. You may have had the same message, Adam, but I got a message from Ricky yesterday. I'm sure he won't mind me reading it out. He said, Matic was key. Doesn't matter whether Matic plays or not. That's how Ricky's tweets always
starts it. Yeah.
Always starts it. But then, surprisingly, because he did say to us, I reckon Sancho will be on the bench after 3 months. I think we both said to him, I don't think you realise what Sancho's all about, Ricky. And I think he's realised it quite quickly, because he said, Sancho keeps it simple, nothing headless chicken or blind alleys. I said to him, a lot of people thought Sancho had a bad game, but I said he was useful because he keeps possession and high up the pitch and he doesn't panic 100%. So I actually do think Sancho played well. I just don't think a lot of people will see that he played well, because he's a different type of player to what we're used to. Rashford, very quick shot, it's over in a couple of seconds. Greenwood's the same. Dan James was the same. And I think Sancho, because he's been brought up on the continent, it suits City well. I mean, it's no surprise he was at City. He can keep the ball around the edge of the box comfortably, which is not easy to do for 10, 20 seconds. And it's a different style of play. But you don't like him on the left. That's what you were saying.
Yeah. Quickly going back to the vlog. The vlog was about Newcastle game, guys. I know the Wolves game, Wan-Bissaka was good, but we played Newcastle yesterday, and that's what the game analysis was about. A few people have said that to me. I said, I know that, but we're looking at it as a Newcastle performance, and that's what it was about. In terms of Sancho, I think me and Ricky are actually on the same page that he would be better on the right-hand side. He definitely would be better on the right-hand side, and it's no good for the likes of Wan-Bissaka or whichever fullback is there if he's chopping and changing all the time. Because we're talking at the start of the season about building up a rapport, building up a link with the right winger, or so-called right winger, if you want to call him that at United, right back. You want to be playing games together. You know what I mean? Building up a relationship between them. You don't want to be chopping and changing them all the time. And I agree with the guys and what they said. This is Man United. You know what I mean? You've got to come into this football club and expect to be sitting on the bench. Unless you're absolutely knocking it out the park every week, like Bruno does most of the time, like Ronaldo did yesterday, then you're going to sit it out. It's as simple as that. That's what Ollie's got to get into. But Greenwood on the right-hand side, put Sancho on the bench for me. Simple as that. I don't think.
What do you do when devil's advocate here? I've always said that when Pogba went on the left, I liked it because I thought that Rashford and Greenwood are too similar and you don't get creativity from the width. Now, I don't think we want to go back with Ronaldo or Cavani through the middle and having Greenwood and Rashford because they're not putting the cross in. So I think Sancho has got to be... I just feel that Sancho's... I like it. He's not under pressure because we've got Ronaldo. He's gradually feeling his way in. And when Rashford's back, he's going to have to go with either Rashford and Sancho or Greenwood and Sancho, but not... Yeah.
That's it, mate. I'm totally with that. I'm on Sancho. I thought he was tighter yesterday. I thought he had some good moments, but it was very obvious about him cutting in on his right-hand side. And I don't think he was comfortable enough to take that chance from Bruno in the first half on the counter-attack with his left.
Could have done better.
And again, if he was on the right-hand side, would we have scored if he was on the right? And the moments like that you pick up on. I was on that side in the first half where he kept cutting in onto his right foot. And yeah, it's good, but he's still playing in front of Newcastle. We're not getting in behind them. And we said all along how bad the keeper was. And we just didn't put enough crosses in. You mentioned the Wan-Bissaka one in the second half. It's probably the best cross of the game. But for me, Sancho on the right-hand side comes in when Greenwood lets up on his form. That's it. You're playing for Man United at the end of the day. I'd have preferred, and I said this to Ricky, I think it made his day. I said, you know what? For that game, I probably would have preferred a Martial or a Pogba on the left-hand side against Newcastle. And then, you could have put a Matic and Donny in midfield. I thought it was ideal for that yesterday because the quality on the ball was there with Matic and Donny in midfield. Pogba would have done what he did against Leeds, where he could have come in and helped out in the middle, but then just veered off to the left at times and played that role really well. And Pogba will deliver. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to come in and shoot. He doesn't do that. That's not his game. He's not direct like Rashford is. Martial would give you another option there as well. I think he's more used to playing there in the United team, not like you said, Sancho in Dortmund on the continent where it's a totally different game. I think Martial, we got to use him. He's not going anywhere. He's another player. I think he's going to have to take his chance when he comes in. But then players, Sancho, Rashford, Greenwood, I think these are the players now that I'm hoping are going to take their opportunities when they come in and they're going to say, like, Ole, what are you doing? What are you going to do now? Because you dare drop me playing like this. And that's what Greenwood's done at the start of the season. I just feel like because Greenwood's had a great start, I feel like Ole's just put Sancho in on the left-hand side when really he should be saying, look, we did buy Sancho for the right-hand side. Ronaldo came in at the last minute, sort of threw a spanner in the works. And this is what we were all saying before. This is now down on Ole to try and manage this situation. But he's going to have to have big balls to make some big decisions, I think, because you can see where he's struggling with Donny. I don't want that to veer into the forward players as well and start isolating certain ones, because if we play it right, then we can challenge for every single trophy this season. We've got it there. And me, in my vlog yesterday, wasn't being negative. I just expect more from this squad that I know has got pure quality in it. I just think we have got more in us, and I want that. I want to see more. I don't want to see scraping and waiting on a world-class goal from a Bruno or a Ronaldo to win us a game against Newcastle.
Yeah.
I expect us to be doing more, that's all. And that's what I was trying to get across, and that's why it was hard to get past the Ronaldo factor and bring in some other key points that I've seen in the game, like the Sancho situation and Wan-Bissaka. But
I really enjoyed it, Adam. I did. I enjoyed it because actually, I was really in a good mood, and you just brought me into a bad mood. I did enjoy it because actually, I think when you're hyped and buzzed like everyone was, it was a bit of a reality bite. And I think Ollie tried to do that as well. He said, "Let the fans dream. We'll keep it real." And at the end of the day, Newcastle are a bit crap, and I would be amazed if United played free flowing football and created 20 chances yesterday. Ronaldo's first game, Varane's first debut at home, Sancho only his second start, and on top of that, it's not just 3 new players coming into the team. It's all the other players having to get used to those players as well. So Luke Shaw's got to get used to things. Maguire's got to still getting used to Varane and Wan-Bissaka. So I think that, you expect to drop points at the start of the season when you bring so many players in, and to win a game like that. Ollie was right. It felt a little bit like 12 years ago, where we wouldn't play particularly brilliant at home, but we'd push aside a team like that, like a Blackburn. We used to be like Blackburn 4-0 at home and not play particularly well because you've got so many good players, and that's what I liked about that. Ryan, I'm going to give you a nice one. People have been screaming about it in the chat, and I certainly wanted to get an opinion on it. Varane yesterday. I wouldn't say he was forgotten, but probably a little bit like Pogba as well. There was a lot of other things going on, but it's only his second game. It's his Premier League debut. What was your thoughts on Varane yesterday?
I love him. I love him. I love him. He's great. He almost scored, didn't he, in the first half? He almost got the header. That was inches. I would have loved that to have gone in. I don't know, that'd have been perfect. But I love Varane. I think when you compare him to Lindelof last season, everything that Lindelof lacked, Varane has. That aerial strength. He didn't lose an aerial battle yesterday. He was so strong. He's so quick. And I just love that. Despite, the goal conceded was he was the last person defense. I thought that was mainly on Maguire diving in at the halfway line. I didn't think that was on Varane. I thought he was 2v1. There was nothing more he could have done. But I thought something.
It was actually a good break from Newcastle. I don't know whether you saw my.
Yeah, it was. It was good play. It was a good play from them. I thought it
wasn't an opportunity for. As soon as Maguire made that tackle, you'd expect even Real Madrid to give you a chance. They actually did everything right from that missed tackle, and we were just a man down. It was very, very good. Honestly, I think Varane.
Maguire, that was the only thing I thought Maguire did poorly in that game. And then Varane, I don't think he put a foot wrong at all. And to be honest, against Wolves, I think he only lost one aerial duel. To lose one aerial duel in 2 games is ridiculous, isn't it? I just think he's great. And I think he's a good partner to a player like Maguire. And I hope that by the end of the season, the standout signing in the transfer window is Varane. Because I think with his quality and what he brings to our defence, I think he will be the perfect centre-back to have next to Maguire for the rest of the season.
It's funny because people in the chat there, Ryan, and they're saying, Varane's better than Maguire. That's the point, isn't it? It's not disrespectful to Harry. I mean, that is the point. He's meant to be better than Maguire.
Yeah, exactly. He's 4-time Champions League winner. I don't think he's gone trophyless bar last season in the last decade, has he? He's won it all, and rightly so. I think the idea is that we level up the defence, and I think someone like Maguire. I already thought Maguire was a good centre-back, but I think what he will learn and adapt his game with someone like Varane next to him is, I think both of them will be a class partnership for the foreseeable.
Sorry, yeah, I agree. And I think as well, the one thing I noticed, and I know you, I think you liked my tweet or something like that, which I appreciate, obviously. He was, he got the ball and moved it quick. From the back. Sometimes first touch, he got the ball and he moved it quick. And I said this on Twitter. I said, this is what the mentality we need. It's not just winning trophies. They don't just win trophies. They play a certain brand of football. And at Real Madrid, they obviously know you get the ball, you move it quick. The opposition isn't in position. You get more space. And if you keep doing that, like Luke Shaw did into Ronaldo, you get a shot on goal. It's not been rocket science for 5 years. And it's not just under Ollie. It was the same under Van Gaal and Mourinho. United's style of football is bloody slow. And having Ronaldo in the team, but having Varane, and this is why a midfielder would be so important. But so many times yesterday, he just gets it and bang, straight across. Or he does it first time. His all-round game is absolutely fantastic. Levin, I know you're going to go and play a tune on that piano in a moment. I've got a topic for you.
Okay.
We've seen Chelsea win comfortably. We've seen Liverpool win comfortably today. Man City got a good result against Leicester. I feel that it's almost. I'm basically going to ask what you think about United in this title race. I know it's very early doors, but it's looking like it's actually going to be one of the hardest Premier Leagues to win as well, because these teams are all capable of not dropping many points. What's your thoughts on it? Because we know there's going to be a bit of time of adjustment, but we have got winnable games. And if we can adjust over the next month before we play that Liverpool game, you don't know. But what are you feeling about United at the moment? I know it's a bit early.
Just after watching yesterday, I think I was very excited yesterday because, how could you not be excited? But, if I'm being real, there were things where I thought to myself, that has to be much better. And I think we still have plenty to improve on in terms of, you look at things that we did in the final third yesterday weren't amazing, and it's why we didn't create enough chances. But I think we'll have to improve in those areas. But when we are clicking, that's that final goal was very telling to me. Where it was just like, when we're clicking, we are just unplayable, aren't we? And we have so much talent in that sense. And so I'm not gonna say 21's loading yet. I think we got to win our next couple of fixtures, and I want to see how we do in those big games as well. But yeah, it's a hard race.
21's loading, and then I'll clip it up and use it against you every week. We're not in the league.
Yeah, no, that's not me. That's not people know that's not me. But no, I'm looking forward to it just because I think you look at Chelsea. I think they're very strong, and I watched the Chelsea game against Aston Villa. They showed right where when they're not playing at their best, they can still win games quite comfortably. Liverpool are just Liverpool. Today they obviously sort of got a result in a very Liverpool type way.
They look like that, don't they? They look like Liverpool of 2 years ago, unfortunately.
They look refreshed, refreshed and ready to come back into things. So it will be very hard. And we, like I've always said, we have a chance, but certain things will still need to improve about the way we play. Our talent is on par with many of the other top teams. Certain aspects of how we play need to improve.
Levin's right, Adam, actually, because when you look at it, Liverpool look like the team of 2 years ago, early days. Man City are the champions, and Chelsea are the Champions League champions who've added Lukaku into it. We shouldn't underestimate the fact that even if we were firing on all cylinders, it's looking like being a ridiculously difficult season. But it will be one of those top four, and you've got to hope that. Well, I think Chelsea play City and Liverpool play City in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and our hardest game on paper is Liverpool at the back end of October. So I think it goes back, doesn't it? I mean, what are your thoughts? Is the next few weeks are key, and it's whether Ollie's going to rotate or stick to the same 13 players.
It's
interesting. And should he rotate?
Yeah, this is it. It's interesting now where, barring probably Brentford, the Premier League looks exactly how I'd probably expect it to. Even below the top four, because top four is set. That's how the top four will finish. We're just debating who's going to finish in first, second, third, fourth. It's done. Then you've got the likes of Everton, Leicester, Spurs around Europa League play. So everything's pretty much as it is. It's funny how fans are back, and it's the most normal season back in 2 years. That this is how it's just set out straight away, and it does look like it's going to be one hell of a battle. And you know what? It's these games now, like the Newcastles, the Wolves, and the West Ham next week. These are the ones, if United win, I'm more confident we can do it. Because I think when United come up against the bigger teams in that top four, I think this is when we're actually going to see the best of us. Because our players then will come to the fore, I think. Like Levin said then, our front line, it can compete with anything in European football. There's no doubt about it. When we click, we will destroy teams. And it's going to be interesting how that top four plays against us. When it comes to it, how they set up against us is going to be really intriguing, because you're going to see the Klopps, the Peps, the Tuchel's minds doing overtime. And I just want to see how Ollie counteracts it as well. I'm really intrigued to see how it goes forward. But until then, I don't think we're going to know with United how our season's going to pan out. I think them big games are going to be key. I do feel
Can
like...
I just jump in there, Adam, because it's a question for you anyway.
Go on, mate.
I can't wait until we have a game like you're sort of predicting might happen, and it could be a Liverpool, it could be an Arsenal, and we're not creating anything, and Ronaldo loses his shit. And that will happen. He ain't going to stand there with a smile on his face forever. Hopefully it will never happen because we play great football, but this is another side that people aren't realising Ronaldo. As he said on Thursday, you're all good players, but we're going up a level. And he will bring that. You will see, not petulance, but you will see frustration from him if he doesn't get what he needs.
Exactly that, mate. And it's going to probably come in one of them games when a Tuchel or a Pep, like he has last season when he's come to Old Trafford, how he's learned how to handle all his counter-attacking Man United and just gone, okay, you have the ball. What are you going to do? We couldn't lay a finger on him. It's going to be the moments like that when the quality managers actually set out a stall against our forward line and say, okay, then you break us down and then we'll see what you've got when it all goes wrong. Because that's how they're probably going to approach it. And that is going to be that moment. And until then, I don't think we can really say, because it's going to be down to Ollie, like we've all said, to try and figure out how we get through this season in terms of who we use. And then them big games, I'm looking forward to it, but I am intrigued as well, because I think in them games, that's when our big name players will really be their worth. I think the likes of Ronaldo, I think this is where you may see the Sanchos coming in and the moments in a season that you all wait for. I think them big ones are when it's going to happen. And that's where the league's going to be won. Because I think all the top teams will beat everyone around them, just below us out of the top 4. But you can see straight away the Liverpool-Chelsea game, how they were both accepting a draw. Don't lose ground. It's like the old Fergie saying, isn't it? Don't lose ground against your rivals and try and beat them at home if you can. But make sure you smash everyone else out the park. And that's exactly how the season's going to go. It looks like it's going to go because that Chelsea-Liverpool game said everything to me. It said everything. How Chelsea just went, right, we don't lose. Bang. Bank it up. Let's stick with what we got and see what we can get maybe on the break. So it's a case of how the managers handle these games now because no one's going to want to lose them. I think that's going to be riding in the manager's thoughts, I think, in these big games. So top 4, one hell of a season. Who's going to go first or drop away first? It's anyone's guess right now because we all look dangerous.
I think we're the most vulnerable, and I'll take that on board as a United fan. I think we're the most vulnerable of the 4, and that's not being negative. That's being, Champions League winners and the last 2 Premier League winners. We've not won the league in, and I just want to be in a title race for as long as we can this season. That's progress for me. If we're in a title race in April, that's progress. But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, you can't afford to be in games like Southampton going, that's not a bad point with 10 minutes to go. It is a bad point. It's not a bad point at Anfield. It's a bad point against anybody outside the top 4 now because that's the standards that Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea will set. That was a very good win for Man City yesterday as well against Leicester. That is a good win. And, nobody batters an eyelid. And that for us would be like, it's a great win. That's a great win. So that's the standard we've got to get to. We're going to do the 5-a-side thing in a minute. So get thinking, lads, about what your 5-a-side team would be for this current United squad. But I did also just want to, I know Adam touched on it, Ryan, so we'll go back to you on this. Anthony Martial, he doesn't get massive amount of love in the United stand community. Again, it's a 50-50 thing. But he was influential for France in the international break. And again, just gets a 10-minute cameo. And also, more interestingly, Lingard comes on the left wing ahead of him. What's your thoughts on that, Martial? He's a long way down the pecking order, it seems. And should he be? And is there a way back for him this season?
I hope so. I like Martial. I got him on the back of my shirt. I do like Martial. I think with Martial, I think he's had a rough couple of years. And I look at it and I think when he first came to us, he was this nippy left winger and he was great on the ball, very quick, cutting inside. And I think as time has gone on, we've needed a centre forward. And I think he's bulked up a bit to go centre forward. I don't think he's necessarily the right framework for a winger anymore. I think he's kind of made himself into like a centre forward. So if we play him out on the left, I think his hold-up play is good, but I don't think he's the same Martial from 4 years ago where he's cutting in, he's taking on a player or two and putting one bottom bins against Liverpool. I don't think he's doing that anymore. I think he's more suited to playing centrally and to hold the play up. And I think it's not his fault. I wish he'd sprint a little bit more. That's my only criticism of Martial. I watch him and I just don't think he sprints a lot, and it infuriates me because I see Bruno pressing, I see Greenwood pressing, I see Ronaldo pressing yesterday. I don't see that same level of intensity sometimes from Martial, and that is a frustration. But I thought it was a bit interesting to bring Lingard on at left wing over Martial. Maybe in training there was something. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, Lingard scored. Martial, I think, was vital in that assist. I think it was Pogba assist, but that's Martial's assist as well because that dummy was great to
good point
to Lingard. But no, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I don't know what he's spoken to Ollie about. But I would like to see him get more minutes. I just don't know if he gets out on that left wing. I don't know if he's right. If we've got Ronaldo in the middle, Anthony Martial, he's going to want to cut in and shoot a lot of the time. I don't think that works with someone like Ronaldo. I think what we saw yesterday as well was a bit of hesitation sometimes from players. Instead of taking it themselves, they were looking for that pass to Ronaldo, and you could see there was a few times players were doing that. I don't think Martial would look for that pass. I think he would rather shoot and rather take someone on than play a cross or a ball in. So for me, I think give him some minutes, but I wouldn't be too upset if he was, say, sold next summer. because I don't see his place. I wouldn't play him over Ronaldo or Cavani up top, and I just don't think he's a left winger anymore.
Really interesting. That was going to ask you that, and you've basically come to that conclusion. It feels like he's a good player, embarrassment of riches, and we don't really have a place for him. Levin, I mean, do you think that's the way it's going to go this season for Tony? I mean, he's not getting time now, and Rashford's going to be back soon.
Yeah, I talked to you about it, and I said, like, realistically, if he's going to get into a squad, he's going to have to be a winger, right? And to be fair, hey, but I don't think it's fair to say he can't be a winger anymore. He's not, sort of suited to that anymore. Even though I do sort of agree, like when I've seen him this season, he doesn't seem to have the quick step like he used to, right? And it's understandable.
He wants to be anyway.
I don't either. It doesn't seem like he drifts out as much.
Well, but it's not necessarily all about that. Like the one thing I'd say Martial is good for, if he is playing out wide for us, is that ability to create space and be direct. Sometimes being direct and making runs is the most important thing as a winger, to create space. Like there was times in, the game against Newcastle where when Sancho was being a bit more safe, where if he had made a run, maybe he would have opened up more space for Luke Shaw out wide to make a cross into Ronaldo. And these are the kind of things we need to do more of. And I think when you have Martial, his directness, in a sense, can be effective. That's why I wasn't thinking about Martial when I was watching yesterday, but I was thinking about Rashford. I was thinking, I would love to see Rashford in this game, because Rashford will make that run, which opens up the space for other people to get involved and that kind of thing. So I don't think Martial is finished by any means. Like, I want to see sort of how Ollie uses him more so. But yeah, he is the sort of loser. If any of the attacking players was going to be a loser, it does seem like it is him. Even though we have the likes of Lingard involved in that conversation, somehow it just seemed to be Martial's the loser. And, how he progresses over the season will be interesting. But he needs more time because he's coming back. He looked decent with France. He's coming back from injury, coming back from bad form. You need to play football.
It's going to be very interesting with Martial, actually, because he played for France. And will he get called up for France if he gets no minutes with United? Being as Van der Beek didn't get called up. He's almost good. He's almost becoming another Van der Beek, really, Martial. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's do the five-a-sides. Adam, you can start off. Who would you have in your Manchester United five-a-side? And when we've given our five-a-sides, the chat, you can just say, basically just be saying Mark. But if you want, like the other ones, you can say Adam, Levin, and Ryan if you want to. So. But what I want people to think about here is, I want people to think about, because we can all pick a five, but think about five-a-side, small goals, small pitch. What team would actually win? Because if people say Ronaldo, Cavani, Rashford, and Greenwood, and then we'll put Matic in goal or something like that, it's not going to win, is it?
No, because it's five-a-side, it makes it really difficult, doesn't it? Because you're talking like the players shooting from all angles doesn't work in five-a-side, so it's got to be sharp, nippy. It's got to be right. So
I've done mine. If you want me to start.
No, fire away with yours. I've already got half of mine made. I just need to think.
I see. I've done my own work. So I've gone De Gea in goal, Varane and Luke Shaw as the two, because they're both good on the ball and mobile. Bruno as the midfielder, sort of between the two, and then Ronaldo as the striker. I had loads. I thought Sancho would be very good in it as well. Pogba would be very good in it, but I went with that.
Yeah, no, I think I would go.
Obviously, De Gea in goal because
I think he's
a brilliant feet stopper.
De Gea definitely in goal. Varane, it's a no-brainer. My other defender, I'm thinking
he wants to put Fred in.
No, Fred's getting nowhere near my team. You know what? In terms of the defenders that we've got at the moment, you've got to say.
You could put a midfielder in there. It doesn't have to be like it.
I mean, do you need two in there? I don't know, to be honest. I'm going to say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go. All right, I'm going to go De Gea. I'm going to go Varane. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, then it's going to be Pogba, Bruno, Ronaldo.
Okay, so De Gea, Varane, Pogba, Bruno, Ronaldo, and I went Shaw, Varane, De Gea, Bruno, Ronaldo. Levin?
I'm going go with a different formation, I guess. I'll go with De Gea in goal. I'd go Shaw and Varane as well, but I'd go Greenwood and Ronaldo. So I'd play like a 2-2 block, and then playing off the lines
Bit like
Talk
Ollie then,
up.
hasn't it? You've got
Greenwood
nothing to
go down.
knit the two together.
No. Greenwood will drop off the line. Luke Shaw will play forward as well. Tactically, I'm the best there ever is. So we play brilliant football.
It's a small pitch anyway. You
Yeah.
don't know. Ryan?
I'd go De Gea and Varane as everyone else. I'd play Donny and Pogba in the midfield with Ronaldo at top. I wouldn't take Bruno. I think that Donny's quick football would work in five-a-side, and I think Pogba's creativity. And then I got obviously Ronaldo as a goat, isn't he? So you got to get him in every team you can. I play him at defense if I had to.
Well,
in my team then I've got to stop 2 defenders from scoring from you guys, and you've got to stop Pogba, Bruno, and Ronaldo. So I feel attacking wise, I think I've probably got it. I don't know. I'm just
you're getting exposed, man. I'll tell you that.
No exposure in the 5-a-side.
You're getting exposed.
One defender can do that job, and Bruno covers more ground than anyone on the planet. So he's doing the work for me. Pogba's pulling strings. Ronaldo's just destroying the rest, and Varane is just doing the Rolls Royce Varane thing that he does.
Yeah, but none of you's got Roberto Carlos like me.
I do.
Sure.
Yeah,
but you've got really Greenwood. You've got no midfield.
Yeah, but I got Greenwood. You hear what all the players say about Greenwood in training. Greenwood's lights out in training, man. And Ronaldo just is, the best player in the world or whatever. So in training, at least, right? So he's gonna carry.
The reality is, it served the purpose of the actual experiment, because it doesn't matter who anyone votes for. We've all fell into the same trap, because I actually think Jadon Sancho is the best street footballer we've got, and therefore he's going to be the best five-side footballer we've got.
No, but do you know what it is? No, but do you know what it is, Mark? I remember I watched them England videos and Saka was bantering Sancho because he weren't scoring goals in training. Like I'm thinking if this was a five-a-side, if this was a five-a-side in training, from what I know about Sancho in training, he ain't banging the way he is on the pitch. So that's why I didn't go Sancho.
I can't believe no one put Pogba in. I think he's.
Look how many we have. There's so many options. There's so many options to pick from.
Pogba's brilliant.
You can say that. You can say that about so many people. We're gonna miss out. To be fair, if we're going
off, McTominay,
yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'd get Fred in my five-a-side team.
Fred McTominay must be the worst five-a-side player ever. And
Lindelof, McFred.
Who?
Dan James. Imagine Dan James at five-a-side.
Oh, he's class. I'm sure he's class.
He'd run into the walls, wouldn't he? He'd start his sprint and reach the other end of the pitch already.
Do you know he's probably the most underrated five-a-side player we have? It's pretty Matic.
Oh, sorry, did you pick Pogba, Ryan?
I did pick Pogba.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
It's fine. I feel like Matic is like a cold five-a-side player, but he's just very underrated.
Juan Mata would probably do a job in five-a-side.
That's his heaven. That is Mata.
Man would do a job in five-a-side.
The best team probably would be, jokes aside, Fred's got a low centre of gravity, Mata, Sancho, and just some other small player that we've got that's good on the ball.
I can just see Pogba shoving someone up against the wall. I mean, you can't get the ball off Pogba. I just see him holding you off against the wall. It's like, see you later. There's Bruno. Where's Ronnie? Night. Game over.
We got to do a United stand five-a-side.
Actually, we have been challenged to a five-a-side. I forgot to mention that.
Let's do it then. What are you waiting for? Why didn't you tell us? Let's do it.
I've already said I've just not told anyone.
I need to get back in match fitness. Do you know what I mean?
It's going to be in Manchester as well.
Get on his treadmill in the back there, Levin, mate. That's what you need to get.
You know what, guys?
It's Boohoo Man. Boohoo Man have challenged us. I've said Boohoo off.
Look, forget me. This guy above me, prime Ruud van Nistelrooy. Best strike I've ever seen in my life. The guy above me, So if we need someone to score goals, this guy.
Are you good at football? Are you?
This guy scored. We played in the training match. This guy scored a hat trick.
I know what you're talking about.
But he bottled it in penalty shootout. He did a Saka in the penalty shootout. He lost for his team. He did a Rashford.
Training starts tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. That's
lovely.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, look, I tell you what, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Ryan, I hope you've enjoyed it. Fantastic.
Oh, it was great. Thanks for having me on. Really
we've had Ronaldo's second debut and we've had Ryan's debut today on the United Stand. So well done, mate. Where can people find you on Twitter and stuff?
Just at It's Haber everywhere. Same sort of thing. But
cool. Thanks for coming on, Levin.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I can't wait to tear it up in five-a-side football with the United Send crew.
Well, apparently you're 6'9".
He
Well,
is.
yeah,
I can confirm. I've met him. He is. He actually
yeah.
is.
Look. I am
You
a
going
bit
in
more of
goal
a
then?
basketball player. No, don't do that to me, Mark. We're not doing that today. We're not doing that. I'll
Well, it
have
wouldn't
you
work
know,
on
Mark.
five-a-side. It wouldn't work.
Mark, I'll have you know, when you had your technical issues, I took over the channel, and it was the best 1 minute we've ever had on the United Stand.
Was
I'll
I
say
gone that long? It felt like about 5 seconds to me.
Yeah, probably. I think it was 5 seconds.
And Adam, thanks for coming on, pal.
Cheers, mate. Anytime. Loved it.
Tomorrow, got a couple of treats for you. It's gonna be a busy start to the week because we're playing on Tuesday, and that's an early kickoff as well. We'll have all the normal stuff going on with that. But Paul Ince is going to be live on the show tomorrow. Normally pre-recorded, 10 o'clock tomorrow. Got Paul Ince live, and I think we've got Romano on at the lunchtime as well. He's coming on just to talk about a bit of transfer stuff and Paul Pogba situation, and obviously Tillemans and stuff like that. So 2 live shows tomorrow with 2 legends, I suppose, and Romano and Ince, because I'm the legend. There you go. That didn't work. Said one.
Nice. Yeah.
There's trouble with live content. I didn't think it through. But look, thanks to everyone in the chat who's tuned in. Sunday night show. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the weekend as well. And we will speak to you tomorrow morning. Don't miss it at 10 o'clock if you want to get your questions in and stuff. And we'll catch you in a bit. Thanks, everyone.